Oh, here we are. It is Monday, November 3rd, and as promised me, I said we'd try to get that video out on the Japanese works of art coming up at Wolley and Wallis, and here it is. It is a neat sale. It's a really good sale, and there's some very nice objects in here. And before I get into it, I did check online to see what the tariff situation is. If you're a buyer in the United States, as it stands now, there's a 15% tariff on all Japanese made and Chinese made works of art imported into the United States, no matter where they're sold from. And just because, so in other words, if the country of origin where the item was made is what counts. And it used to be, of course, that if you imported something and the declaration on the invoice said antique over 100 years old, it came through duty free. And that isn't the case for the time being. So keep that in mind when you're bidding, that there is a 15% tariff on everything you bid on and buy and import. All right, and that's just the way it is for now. You still want to have the antique over 100 years old label on the invoice, though, if you buy. Make sure that's on there, and make sure it's on the shipping documents as they enter the United States, so you have a good record of it. And there may be some sort of way to, I don't know if you can regain it, but you can certainly deduct it on your taxes if you're doing it as a business thing and so forth. But at any rate, onto the auction. This is if you're in the UK, in that part of the world. This is a sale if you're a Japanese collector. You want to go to it. There's some awfully nice items in here. There's a wide range of objects. Just to quickly sort of skim through it, this is the catalog. It's available as a link off of their website at Wolley and Wallis. And as I said, the sale is the 13th of November. And you can go through it from using the catalog, or you can just go to the website. And when you look at the site right away, you see right off the bat, there's some very, very fine ceramic examples. And we're going to get into those because I know a lot of you are interested in ceramics. And there's the famous cover lot by Makuzo Kozan that we're going to talk about initially. But this is just page one, mostly ceramics. Then you get into the very fine Satsuma wares going down the other side. A lot of signed examples, small examples, so the shipping won't be too bad on a lot of them. And then you get into the raku wares, the tea wares, the pottery wares, Korean works of art. There's some nice Korean ceramics in here. Then there's a very fine tortoiseshell game board in here. It's their version of Go, and other lacquer pieces, some nice wood carvings, inrows, the whole bit. And there's a lot of lacquer. If you're a lacquer buyer, you really want to check the sale out. There's some terrific examples in here. Very, very fine. And then, of course, you have the inrows and all these little bit. And then you get down past all the lacquer wares, and you get into swords and so forth, katanas, wagasashis, manuki, all the little sword fittings and so forth. And then you pop along over the other works on metal and so forth, carvings, bronzes, cloisonné. There's some very fine cloisonné pieces in here. And then you get some scrolls and paintings. There's a couple of very nice screens in here, right here and here. We're going to talk about a couple of them. And then you get into other paintings, and then, of course, wood block prints down here. A lot of the wood block prints are Taisho and Showa period as well. There's some fairly contemporary works by well-known artists and so forth that are, well worth looking into. I'll tell you that. They're beautiful. And so forth. So let's get started. Let's get into it. All right. And we're going to start first. We're going to talk about this terrific cover lot by Makuzo Kozan. It's a very rare thing. And he was active during the end, sort of the later Meiji and into the Taisho period. And he had his studio, his workshop was rather famously in Yokohama. And this is something that he made very sculptural, very innovative. This is an extremely difficult piece to do, technically, to have it all stay together. The glazes, you'll notice some of the glaze strips on the ends where the clear glaze ran down, created clear puddles on the tips of these icicles coming down. And then you have the bird inside of a implied rocky enclosure, and then more ice coming down from above. While the bird is protecting its brood inside. There's the seal mark of the potter. This is a really, really rare piece, and it's based on this sort of school of paintings of birds and wildlife dealing with the winter, with the cold of the winter. And There it is. It's a beautiful piece. It's a very rare thing, and it's pretty good size. It's about 10 inches, 11 inches tall, so it's not a small item. This is a pretty significant size a piece of ceramic. The estimate is 6 to 8,000 pounds, which I don't think is unreasonable. He's phenomenally important potter, and this is a really unusual example. And you're not going to come across many of this style by him. They are exceedingly rare. And then hopping along over to this, there's some very nice Hirado blue and white pieces. You have this nice little compressed jar. It measures about 9.5 inches tall or so, but beautifully done. Nice cobalt decoration with birds and so forth. And of course, with all ceramics, you always want to get a condition report. But most of the pieces I've seen in here seem to be free of any problems, but you do want to check. You always want to check. Just to be certain. But this is a very nice example. It's made in the 17th century. This is an early one. All right, and the 17th century wares are really the ones that get a lot of the attention these days, obviously, because they were all created at the very beginning of the Japanese porcelain industry. Once they learned to make it down in the Hirado provinces, thanks to the help of a Korean potter, this is what they ended up with. This is estimated at 600 to 1,000 pounds. It's in beautiful condition, from what I can see. Worth looking into. And then you have this. This is a larger bottle. It's a Chinese form. This is a form you see in Chinese ceramics. You also see them in Korean ceramics. And this is also an Edo period example done during the 17th century in blue and white. And this is a little bit bigger than the last one. This one is about 16 inches tall, 39 centimeters. All right, so it's just about 15 and a half inches tall. It's a nice big one, and very nicely decorated in a nice form. And I love the way that, by the way, Wolley and Wallis, I'm on Wolley and Wallis's website. Their images enlarge beautifully, and they're very high res when you enlarge them, so you don't have to worry about wondering what it is you're getting or if the photographs are inadequate. These are really good photographs. They do a terrific job with their pictures. All right, and you go right up. This looks like it's a nice condition. Again, get a condition report. The estimate is 1,500 to 2,500 pounds, but a beautiful example. And then hopping along over into here, there's some little lots like this where you get some nice 17th century and early 18th century porcelains. The two big plates in this image appear to be 17th century or very early 18th century. This one on the right I particularly like. I like the one on the left too, but I like the one on the right better. I like the spacing, and I like the leaping deer in the scene. Oh, bring it in. There they are. This is a very nice place. Then you have a couple of slightly later. There's a slightly later jar on the right, it appears to be, and probably a 19th century Edo jar on the left. But it's a cute lot. It's a good lot. And the dishes measure about, I believe, about 8 inches in diameter, something. Yeah, 21 and a half centimeters. So that's the biggest one. So that's a little over 8 inches, 8.5 inches in diameter. And then moving along over to this. This is a great set. This is a set of kakeyamon dishes, and there are three of them with their box, which is always very nice. It's estimated at 600 to 1,000 pounds. And I'll let this enlarge. Come on. Come on. There we go. These are very nice. They have the brown dressed rims, and notice the rims are, I think, overall are in excellent condition. There's no chipping or nicking to them. There's two shades of cobalt here, that light sort of grayish blue cobalt forming the border, and then brighter plum blossoms or prunus blossoms in the center. There's the mark on the bottom. And there's the set overall. This is a very attractive set, and they come in 3 boxes. And you'll find them apparently in the Shibata books, very similar examples. Yeah, there it is. The Kyushu Ceramic Museum and Shibata Collection, part 5, page 253. So there you go. So if you want to own something that's of an exact type that's also in that museum, if you collect those, this is a good lot. It's very attractive. And then there's this double gourd dish that's opened. Again, Edo period, 17th century. This is a very early one, and it's highly refined. There it is. Beautiful bit of ceramic work. Nice looking brown dressing and trim. The porcelain is very clean and white. The enameling is in good condition all the way around. This is a lovely example. I love these double gourd dishes. I think they're pretty terrific. And again, in the Shibata book, part 2, volume 1, and you'll find the twin to it here, and they date this also to the 17th century, of course. And then there's this one, a Kakeyamon style dish with dragons, also Edo period, 18th century. Some people think these might be a little earlier. There's sort of a debate about some of these, but it's a very attractive one, also illustrated in Shibata. And the colors on this are brilliant. The colors on this dragon are just wonderful. And he's got a great facial expression. And I like the use of, somehow they did this, and this is not an easy thing to do. It has sort of dowsai tone enamels like you see on Chinese porcelain around the rim, very soft palette, but then fairly hard palette deck colors for the dragon, which is why he stands out so much and so beautifully against that lighter frame background. And this dish measures about 5.5 inches in diameter. It's a rare bird. This is a very rare type, and I think it's wonderful looking. And the estimate is 400 to 600 pounds. I think that's great. And as a lot of you know, I love Japanese ceramics, so this is a particular interest to me. And then over here, there's a very nice Hirado cistern done during the later Edo into the early Meiji period. It's pretty good size. This thing is about 60 inches tall. This is a big piece of Hirado ware. It is not a 5 or 6 inch tall thing. This is, I think it was 40-something centimeters in height. There's the opening with a mask on it. It's very dramatic. That's to drain it. But notice the quality of the cobalt decoration around the collar here. The lappets and the lotus buds coming down, and then you have these wonderful mountains, layered mountains going back and so forth, and then down to the bottom, and then this beautiful base with a mask on it. This is a great thing. And then you have the rain border like you see on Chinese ceramics, because a lot of the Hirado potters mimicked things that the border decorations and so forth that they saw in Chinese wares, they brought them into their own. There's a lot of adaptation on these. And here's the base with the hollowed out section under it to put a burner under, presumably. It measured 45 centimeters. So this is an 18-inch tall cistern. This is a big piece of porcelain. Measure out 18 inches so you get some idea and understand, a thing this size to ship is a little bit expensive, but it's a great example, and it looks to be in good condition. The Fu line is pretty classical on the top, I have to say, and it's estimated at just 12 to 1,500 pounds, which I think is extremely reasonable for that. So don't be surprised if this goes for over that estimate. This is a really fine example. It's a very, very fine example. And then the Kutani basin. Now, this is a fun thing. This came from the Yoshida kilns. And the Yoshida workshops were opened around, I think they said it here, 1824. It was sort of at the end of the first quarter of the 19th century, and they brought back this style of decoration that made Kutani so legendarily famous in pottery. This was a revival thing for them, and the Yoshida kilns became famous for their ability to so closely replicate the decorative patterns and the decorative techniques used on the early Kutani pottery before they went to making it on porcelain. And this is a wonderful example, very precisely done Mons flowers on it, and this very lovely semi-translucent green, and this very opaque aubergine going down it, and then you have this nice cobalt enamel border. All of this is overglazed enameling. It's wonderfully done. And this is a basin, so it's pretty good size. It's a pretty good size thing. In the description, they said it's 305 centimeters. I think that's a typo, because that would make this basin 10 feet in diameter. I think they meant to say 30.5 centimeters. So if anybody at Wolley and Wallis is watching this, you might want to correct the Yoshida dimensions on the Kutani basin to 30.5 centimeters or whatever it actually is. It's lot 737 in case you don't know. But anyway, it's a beautiful piece of ceramic, and these are very rare. These basins are very rare from the Yoshida workshops, and this one is estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. All right, and then hopping along over to this is very nice. This is a sweet thing. And many of you that collect Satsuma have seen these before, this pattern. This was a Yabu Maizan example, and he was fairly famous for this particular thing. So if you've always wanted to own one, this is in this style with these bands of decoration of landscapes, figures, and nature. So you have birds at the top, humans, people in the middle, and various activities, and then overviews of villages, these sort of bucolic, beautiful scenes of houses along water's edge and mountains in the background, lots of gilding. And this thing appears to be, in this example appears to be in great condition, and it has its original lid, and as far as I can tell, the finial hasn't been knocked off, which is a near miracle. Now, these are not big. This is only about probably 5 inches tall. It's 12 and a half centimeters. These are fairly small. So this is about 5 inches, just about exactly 5 inches tall. It's estimated at 1,500 to 2,500 pounds, but it's a very, very nice example. It is signed on the bottom, very, very beautifully signed, and it's completely authentic. But if you've ever wanted to own a Maison example done with this banded decoration that he was well known for, this is a good one. This is a good one, because sometimes you see them and the gilding is worn off, the enamels are rubbed down, and they're not in such great shape after a while. This one looks to be almost pretty much perfect as far as I could tell. And then over to this Baduk board. This is their version of Go. If you're familiar with Go, it's a strategy game involving white and black rocks, and you move them around on the top, and you try to box in your opponent to get them taken off the board. But this is Go was first invented in China, and then the Koreans adopted it in the 6th or 7th century, and then eventually the Japanese got it from the Koreans. But there are different names for it. In Korea, they call it Baduk. And this is, or it sounds like Paduk, but this one is a beautiful, you're buying it because the board is so beautifully made. Now, this is a pretty good size. These are pretty good size. This is a roughly 18 or 19 inches square on the top and about a foot tall. It's not a little tiny box. This is a pretty good sized thing, but it's beautifully inlaid with tortoiseshell in the form of dragons and then carved and so forth. This is a really lovely example, absolutely beautiful example of Korean work. And there's the top of it and all the little squares and so forth. So you could still play on this if you wanted to buy it and play with it. But they still produce Baduk boards today or Go boards today, of course. But this is a wonderful antique example. And you don't see them that often this well done, especially from Korea. Korean examples I think are quite rare. And the estimate on this is I don't think it's at all crazy. It's 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. But this is basically a piece of furniture. And they've got a good provenance on it, the collection that it came out of. I think this is a gem. I love wood things, so it's of particular interest to me. I think it's wonderful. And then over to this, you have this Negoro Heishi ritual bottle vase. And this one is an Edo to early Meiji period example. And of course, they produced them much, much, much earlier in the Kamakura period. But this is a later version, but it's beautifully done. The quality of the workmanship on this is if you've seen the early ones, this one is because it's later and was done in the end of the Edo to the Meiji, you're going to find the lacquer work to be absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. And they would put it on. It was layering on of red over black lacquer, and then they rub it down and give it this distressed surface. This was the look they were going for. This is not damaged. This is how they wanted them to look, and this is a very elegant thing. It's beautifully proportioned. The shape is excellent. The shape is just about exactly perfect, and it's got that sort of Meiping mouth on the top. And this particular pot measures 33 centimeters, so it's just a little under 13 inches tall. The estimate is 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, but a very nice example. Very, very nice. And then over this, you have the okimono of Ono, the lady poet. No Kamachi. She was a famous Japanese poet. Let's see here. What was she? This is 19th to 20th century. Okay, so it's Edo to possibly Meiji era, possibly Taisho, but probably Meiji. They're dating it as Meiji. But if you look at this, the carving on this is really terrific. The carving on this and the patina is absolutely outstanding. Look at the facial expression. She's looking down, sort of with a surprised look on her face. But notice the hair, how beautifully it's carved. The hair is beautifully done. The brow is furrowed up nicely. All the wrinkles. She's an elderly woman, and she's out, and she's got her coat on. And notice her hands are wrinkled, and then you get down to her hat, her old hat, and part of it is ripped and so forth, a symbol of age, a symbol of having been around a little while, a symbol of a long life, and then you have the almost nearly skeletonized looking feet here with the bones and the joints so well articulated. This is a wonderful carving, though. It's a beautiful, beautiful carving, and the tattered edges of her robes and so forth. as she nears the end of her life. And this is measures. This is estimated pretty reasonably. Actually, it's only estimated at $600 to $1,000, and it's a foot tall. This is a 29 and a half centimeters or 29 centimeters. So that's a quarter of an inch, basically shy of a foot. So this is not a small okimono like we traditionally think of them being 4 to 6 inches, little pieces. This is a bigger okimono, a foot in height. So you might want to look into that if you're into wood carvings. And then over here you have this. They're really rare. These are the guardians, the Buddhist temple guardians. Let's see here. How tall are these? These are pretty small, as I recall. Yeah, they're about 8 inches in height and so forth. And these traditionally are done in much larger style. The large examples were placed outside of Buddhist temples to protect the teachings of Buddha. And one of the figures always has his mouth open, and one of them always has his mouth closed. And the mouth open is the anticipation or the beginning of life, and the mouth closed is death. And these are ferocious people, and they were not here to scare away the reverent and the students of Buddha, but to protect them and protect their knowledge from evil. And they're very ferocious looking, and these are beautifully carved. These are wonderfully carved examples and nicely patinated. And this is something the Japanese just excelled at during, especially during the Meiji and even into the Taisho era. They accelerated at patination of surfaces. They really got it down. You see it on their bronzes, you see it on their woodwork, you see it on their lacquers. And here's another classic case, but spectacular quality carving, estimated at 12 to 15,000 pounds. These are very, very rare. All right, and they're by Rocco, a prominent carver, and so forth. So if you're into great rarities, these are enormously rare, and they're beautiful, and they're not too big, so they won't eat up your whole living room. And over the years, we've had the full sized ones, and they are quite large. They can be 6 or 7 feet tall. We had a pair of them we got years ago out of an estate here in New England that we sold to somebody in London, and they were enormous. They were crazy. All right, and then over to this, the Japanese lacquer. There's a lot of lacquer boxes. It really hinges on what you like and so forth. I just picked this one because it's a very unusual type, and it's beautifully done and then inlaid with lacquer and mother of pearl and so forth all the way around. And on the top of it is a carving that you'll find familiar. There it is. It's the boy with the flute riding the water buffalo, and you find the symbol in Japanese art, and you also find it in Chinese art, and it's borrowed from the Chinese to the Japanese, and it's in the Japanese culture. It's sort of a symbol of the boy taming the water buffalo, the powerful water buffalo, and approaching his enlightenment. And in China, it means something a little bit different. But in Japan, that's their interpretation. And this is a wonderfully done box. It's a beautiful box. Very nice lacquer work with mother of pearl, as you can see. Nice floral elements everywhere. This is this is the kind of box you could have and just talk about and look at and enjoy. And it's pretty good size, too. It measures 16 centimeters by 16 by 25. So it's about almost a foot long and roughly 7 inches in height. So it's a nice tabletop box, estimated at just 400 to 600 pounds. Very reasonable estimate on that. Don't be surprised if some of these are going to go over this. They always seem to, but I think their guidance on estimates in this auction look pretty good. And then you have this gold and black lacquer stand. Now this is a small stand. This is a small lacquer stand. It's only about 5 inches long. This is a small stand. It's ideal. It would be perfect for doing displaying net skis on and things like that, or you just want a beautiful stand to look at. But this is it. This is a very nice one with ascending geese into a into a lily pond. You have the aquatic plants over here on the left, and then this shimmering surface, this maki surface of lacquer ground for the ducks to descend into. And I suppose that's supposed to be either the sky or the water, depending on how you're looking at them. The estimate on this is 800 to 1,200 pounds. It looks like it's in great condition. If the estimate on this is fairly strong, and I suspect it's because it's in perfect shape, you want to check on it because condition is just as crucial to lacquer as it is to porcelain. Chips and nicks and damage to lacquer can severely impair its value unless it's by a very, very famous, artist and signed and all that sort of thing. And even then it impacts it because the lacquer collectors are pretty finicky about condition. They wanted them untouched. And this one looks awfully nice, and it's a great little stand. So if you've been looking, don't forget the stands. If you have some nice objects, don't be afraid of buying a great stand to put under it. All right, and then over to this. I thought this was wonderful fun. It's a pair of shishi or Koro incense burners, and they're Meiji or later. They're thinking that they're either late Meiji, maybe Taisho period, early Taisho, and they're pretty good size. These are 37 centimeters in length. So these two Fu Lions, it's an incense burner, are about 14 inches long. So it's a pretty good size one. What I really like about this, though, this is a lesson. You've seen Ming bronzes with Ming patinas. All right. Okay, this shows you how good the Japanese were at doing patinas. This looks like, if you saw this photograph and so you said to them, and you didn't know it was Japanese, but you were just examining it by the patina, you'd say, how old is it? You'd say it's 17th or 18th century at the latest. The Japanese were able to create this surface, okay, in their patination process using gilding and techniques to oxidize the bronze to get the right color. And the color of this is absolutely fantastic, all the way around. The head lifts off. This is an incense burner, so you could actually use it. It would be kind of fun to use as an incense burner. There's another shot of it here with red paper. It makes it look a little more dramatic, I guess. But again, you get to see that fantastic surface that they can put on this. And this is something the Chinese during the late 19th and early 20th century could not really do. The Japanese were the masters of patinas. They were the absolute master of surfaces at this time on metalworks and on wood and so forth. This one is estimated at just 8 to 1,200 pounds. I think it's a great thing, and I think the estimate is low. That's just my personal opinion. But beautifully done and very much almost Chinese looking in many ways. If you're wondering why it looks so familiar and you're a Chinese buyer, it does have there's a lot of influence in a lot of the Japanese art from China. A lot of it seeped in. And then you have this. This is a very, very rare thing by Namakawa Suzuki. He was the famous wireless Cloisonné maker. And this is an exceptionally unusual box. It's sort of on an ivory pinkish ground, but wireless work. This was something he was famous for. So it looked like it was painted onto the surface rather than, enclosed with wire cloisons and then filled in with an enamel. They used this. He was famous for developing and perfecting this. He wasn't the first to do it, but he was one of them, perfecting this wireless technique. And this is it. It's got this beautiful brass or bronze gold rim on it and these lovely flowers and these dark greens and then blossoms and so forth. And it's a rare form to see this shape by him. It dates 19th or 20th century. He was only active up until about 1910, so right at the end of the Meiji Restoration. And he was born in 1847. So he didn't live, well, he lived a pretty long time. That's pretty good back then. And it's signed, of course. It's signed on the bottom. 4,000 to 6,000 pound estimate. And then over to this, if you don't care if they're signed or not, these are a really fine pair of Cloisonné jars. There's no apparent maker on them. They measure about 5 inches in height, but they're extremely fine, estimated at 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. But the workmanship is excellent on these. These are beautiful. I'm really shocked that they're not signed, actually. These beautiful white red-headed herons on both sides, and these trees and all the work on it, black ground. They look to be in great shape, and you can tell by the rim they're fairly heavily potted. These the bodies are fairly heavy bronze, because you can tell by the thickness up here. So these are going to have some weight to them, but beautifully done, 1,000 to 2,000 pound estimate. And then hopping along over into the screen area, the School of Geia, or the appreciation of art, of nature and landscapes and so forth. This is a really lovely screen, and it's an amazing condition. It's funny, when I first saw this, I thought it might be like a late Edo period one or mid Edo period one. This is 17th century Momoyama period, which is phenomenal when you look at this because the condition of it is outstanding. Normally you see little rips and tears along the folds here where the screen is open and closed and it rubs, things get in there and you get little tears. This screen looks to be in pretty much pristine condition for a 17th century Japanese screen. It's in phenomenal shape. There's just tiny, 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 tiny bits of wear in natural places, but there's no rips or anything. The colors are still vibrant. The reds are still good. The greens are good. The details are all fine. All of the little subtle thin layers of black used, like on this dog here, this wolf, look to be in great condition. I don't see anything wrong with this at all. And here you have these flowers along the edge, the wood ducks here, the pair of wood ducks. Everybody looks in perfect shape. It's just and it's a lovely scene. It's an active scene. It's really a really interesting look at nature. And there you have these very, very fine details, all the hairs on the dog and so forth, and he's got those crazy eyes. Maybe it's a wolf. Maybe it's supposed to be a wolf actually. But I like this a lot. And there's the signature. They couldn't tell who. There's actually they have a studio name. They think it's Tonshu, possibly a studio name, but they couldn't. Apparently, they looked him up and they couldn't find exactly who it was. But it doesn't matter. It's a beautiful screen. It's estimated at $15,000 to $20,000 or 20,000 pounds. But remember, this is a Momoyama period screen. It is not a late Meiji screen from 1880 or 90. This is a screen from the 1600s. And it's in beautiful condition. And then you have this. This struck me as very interesting. It's just an unidentified artist. It's an ink work on paper, obviously. It's a hanging scroll. And it measures 60 centimeters long and 38 centimeters wide. So it's about 2 feet long and 18 inches wide. And it's a depiction of God in the big black hat and so forth. But I think it's a very, I don't care who did it. I really don't care who did it. This is a very powerful ink painting. I think it's got a real great look to it. The facial characteristics are very nicely done, and this looks like it's a pretty good shape. It's got some little irregularities on the paper, but nothing too bad. And I think it's very zen and very cool. And it dates to the Edo period. They're dating it tentatively as being 18th to early 19th century, I guess. But the estimate is for nothing. And this is a scroll. So remember, you can ship this almost, you can put it in a tube because this, I don't believe, is framed. You want to check. They say it's a hanging painting. So they're not saying it's framed. So they're saying it's a scroll still. The estimate is only 400 to 600 pounds. This is a wonderful looking ink painting. Very, very nice. And it's one of my favorites. Some of my favorite artists are titled Unidentified or Anonymous. All right, and then over to this, you have this Fujiwara. Well, it's sort of an interesting pair of pictures. One of them on the left, these are just sort of fun. The one on the left depicts the Tang general, because the Japanese often use Tang figures. As you know, they did screens with Chinese figures in them and so forth. And this one is a picture of the general standing in front of a big screen. And then you have the scholar on the right with the boys here. And this is 2 scrolls for the price of 1, as they say. The estimate is for nothing, 300 to 500 pounds for both of them. And again, wonderful things to get. You could, if I had these, I'd get them framed. I'd put them up and I'd get them properly framed. I wouldn't annihilate the mount or anything, but there are ways to do it where you can display them, because scrolls do not like to be hung all the time. So it's not good for them. They fall apart, they dry out, and so forth. Especially old ones. If you buy a scroll or a painting and you're gonna hang it on a regular basis, take it to a good framer and have them build a good shadow frame for it and mount it properly. And that way, you're not damaging the painting by having it hanging on its own weight all the time. There are ways to suspend them so they're protected under UV glass. But these both would make wonderful things to hang in a house. And they measure 86 centimeters by 42 centimeters, so about 7 feet is the overall size. These are pretty good sized pictures. All right, and that's just a quick look through the sale. It's a very nice auction. You've got 10 days before the thing begins to go through and make your choices. Register on their website and buy it directly from them. And I don't know if they don't advertise on Live Auctioneers, but I think they advertise on Invaluable. But you save money nearly always. You at least save 5%, so you could save some of that tariff money if you bid through their site and deal with them directly. And go that way. All right, but it's awfully nice looking. As I said, the flipbook catalog is at the beginning, and we've posted all this over for the Patreon users. As you know, we posted all this over there a number of days ago. But check it out if you're a Japanese buyer. This is a very nice auction. All right. All right, we'll be back later this week with more, but I just wanted to get this out because I know a lot of you were interested in this sale, and I've heard from a number of you, and this is it. So but get those condition reports, get them in early. Don't wait until the last 2 days and suddenly bombard these people because they've got a lot going on, and they've got 3 Chinese sales in front of this, so their staff is going to be very busy with the Chinese sales as well as the Japanese sale. So they have a lot on their plate, so give them time to do it. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and join us over on Patreon if you'd like. We'd love the company, and have a great week. All right. Bye-bye.